Welcome to What I'm Reading, What I'm Thinking, where I share the research behind my upcoming book and how it's shaping the way I think about fascia, structure, and movement. Let's dive in. Today's episode is about something we all do, but often don't realize: compensate. When something isn't working, whether in our body, our behavior, or our belief system, we adjust. We find a workaround, and over time, these workarounds become patterns, predictable ones. That's what researchers call the common compensatory pattern, and it shows up everywhere. Let's start in the body. In osteopathic medicine, J. Gordon Zinc identified a reoccurring postural pattern across hundreds of patients. Right-sided shortness, a rotated pelvis, a consistent facial spiral that winds through the body from head to toe. This became known as the common compensatory pattern, or CCP. It's not a coincidence. Our bodies adapt in ways that spread strain across the system to preserve function. If the pelvis rotates left, the spine rotates right. If the leg shortens on the right, the shoulder compensates on the left. It's a brilliant distribution of pressure and load bearing, but it comes at a cost. And this is where it connects to fascia. Fascia doesn't just wrap muscles. It transmits load, maintains shape, and stores tension. When that system becomes asymmetrical, pressure shifts, breathing changes, core stability is altered, and this whole body strategy becomes a new normal. In my work in structure, function, and breath, I see this daily. The body's compensation pattern isn't random, it's intelligent. But once that pattern sets in, it locks pressure and joints in the wrong places. And then we start to feel pain, stiffness, and even disconnection from parts of ourselves. Let's look at movement. When someone recovers from a stroke or rehabs from an injury, you often see them shrug a shoulder to lift an arm or lean the trunk to avoid loading the hip. These are compensatory strategies. Research using sensors and machine learning has shown we can accurately predict these patterns based on movement signatures. The trunk leans, the scapula elevates, the gait shifts. But here's the key. Compensation keeps the task going, even if it sacrifices efficiency or long-term stability. That's the trade-off: function now and balance later. But compensation isn't just physical. There's a whole body of research, like the work of Landu and colleagues, showing that when people feel a loss of control, they reach for structure, they create routines, they adapt rigid belief systems. They simplify the world, sometimes clinging to cause and effect narratives that aren't true just to feel stable again. Psychologically, we're doing the same thing our fascia does, organizing around pressure. If we don't feel agency in one area, we build it somewhere else. We affiliate with groups. We affirm meaning, even if it's arbitrary, just to reestablish a sense of groundedness. And while this isn't wrong, it's a pattern, a compensatory one. In high-performance environments, athletics, emergency work, even parenting, compensation plays a survival role. We shift energy to primary tasks by dialing down less essential ones. We sacrifice posture to lift heavier. We skip sleep to meet deadlines. But this is a short-term win. Long-term compensatory strategies increase fatigue, strain, and breakdown. The system becomes less adaptable, less resilient. Even in health behavior, this shows up. Think of the person who eats fast food but says, "I'll walk it off later." Or the gym goer who overtrains to compensate for feeling out of control elsewhere in life. These are compensatory behaviors, and research shows they're often tied to lower psychological well-being. So what does all this mean? Compensatory patterns aren't flaws, they're strategies. When the system loses efficiency, it works around the problem to keep you functioning. Whether it's a rotated pelvis or a stress-driven belief, it's the same deeper mechanism, the body or mind doing its best with what it's got. Here's the truth. There's no such thing as perfect posture. The human body isn't a machine that locks into one ideal position. It's adaptive, responsive, and always in flux. Because of how the nervous system and brain are wired, especially through right-left asymmetries in organ placement, cortical control, and habitual movement patterns, we all have a tendency towards certain compensations. What osteopaths call the common compensatory pattern is not a mistake. It's a common path the system takes under load. The goal, then, isn't to achieve symmetry like a statue. The goal is integration, a kind of functional coherence where structure and nervous system fluidity respond to demand without excess strain. In my own work, I found that even small changes, reducing a structural pattern by just 1 to 3%, can dramatically shift a client's experience. Sometimes that's enough to relieve 80 to 100% of their pain. Not because the body is now perfect, but because the system has enough space and enough organization to function without compensation. So integration isn't about forcing alignment. It's about allowing coherence. It's about restoring responsiveness so the system doesn't have to overcorrect or brace just to stay upright or stay safe. That's the real work, helping the body and nervous system remember how to move, adapt, and regulate without needing to compensate. That's it for today's dive into the research. If you're enjoying this process and want to see how all these ideas come together, make sure to subscribe and stay tuned for the next one. There's a lot more coming.